Imagine a world where every great empire, Egypt, Mycenae, Babylon, Troy, and the Hittites, thrived together in an age of gold and progress. Trade routes spanned continents. Kings sent letters across oceans. Bronze weapons glinted beneath the Mediterranean sun. And then, one day, it all ended. Within a single generation, cities burned, kingdoms vanished, and writing itself nearly disappeared from the earth. The collapse of the Bronze Age wasn't just a fall. It was the death of civilization as humanity knew it. Before everything fell apart, the Bronze Age world was a dazzling network of kingdoms, an interconnected web of power, wealth, and innovation. In the West, the Mycenaeans ruled the Aegean, warriors who inspired Homer's heroes. In the East, the Hittite Empire controlled Anatolia, their chariots feared from Troy to Babylon. Egypt stood as the eternal power in the South, ruled by pharaohs like Ramesses the Great, who called himself the son of all peoples. These were not isolated civilizations. They traded copper from Cyprus, tin from Britain, gold from Nubia, and luxury goods from Crete. Clay tablets reveal kings addressing each other as brothers, exchanging daughters in marriage and gold as gifts. Ships sailed constantly across the Mediterranean, carrying goods and ideas. The world was globalized, long before that word existed. But beneath the glitter of bronze, cracks began to form. Famine struck the Levant. Droughts lasted decades. Farmers abandoned their fields as rivers dried up and crops failed. Clay tablets from Ugarit speak of desperation. The fields are barren, our grain is gone, our cattle are dead. Meanwhile, earthquakes shook the Aegean coast. Entire cities collapsed into rubble, and ports were swallowed by the sea. And then there were the wars, endless, bloody wars. The Hittites and Egyptians clashed at Kadesh, a battle so vast it filled the sky with dust and arrows. Even after peace, the cost of maintaining armies drained their treasuries. The Mycenaeans turned on one another. City fought city. Brothers turned to rivals. Their palaces, once centers of trade, became fortresses of fear. The Bronze Age world was a house built on sand, and the tide was rising. And then from the sea came the storm. Around 1200 BC, mysterious fleets appeared across the Mediterranean. Raiders the Egyptians called the Sea Peoples. No one knows where they came from. Some say the Aegean Islands, others from the north, perhaps driven by famine or war. They were not simple pirates. They came with families, wagons, livestock, a migration of nations. Wherever they landed, cities burned. Ugarit fell. Hattusa, the Hittite capital, vanished in fire. Mycenaean palaces were looted and abandoned. Even mighty Egypt, the eternal land of the Nile, was brought to its knees. Pharaoh Ramesses III wrote of the invasion. The foreign countries made a conspiracy in their islands. The lands were removed and scattered in the fray. No land could stand before their arms. He defeated them, barely, but Egypt was crippled. It would never again be the empire it once was. The fall of one kingdom triggered the collapse of another. Trade routes that once carried tin and copper, the lifeblood of bronze, were severed. Without trade, weapons could not be forged, armies could not fight, and economies collapsed overnight. When the Hittites fell, their vassals lost protection. When Mycenae burned, merchants starved. When Egypt withdrew, entire regions descended into chaos. Writing disappeared. The linear B script of the Mycenaeans vanished. The great archives of Ugarit turned to ash. Within a century, the vast interconnected world that had taken 1,000 years to build was gone. The people who survived looked at the ruins and tried to make sense of it. To them, it must have felt like the end of days. In a way, it was the first dark age in recorded history. But not everything vanished. From the ashes of collapse, seeds of renewal emerged. In Greece, survivors of the Mycenaean world preserved oral traditions, the stories that would one day become the Iliad and the Odyssey. In Egypt, scribes still copied sacred texts, though their temples fell silent. In the Levant, Small kingdoms like Israel and Phoenicia arose, building upon the bones of the fallen. The collapse erased empires, but it also reshaped civilization. Iron replaced bronze. City-states replaced kings. The world became smaller, harder, but wiser. Humanity had learned, painfully, that even the mightiest empires can crumble overnight. The Bronze Age collapse was not just a historical event, it was a warning. It showed how fragile civilization truly is, how trade, climate, war, and human greed are all threads in the same web. Break one, and the whole tapestry can unravel. We often think collapse is something that happens suddenly, but in truth, it's the slow decay we ignore until it's too late. And as we stand today in our own globalized world, interconnected, prosperous, and fragile, perhaps the question is not what ended the Bronze Age, but when our own collapse might begin. If you enjoyed this journey into the forgotten past, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Do you think civilization could collapse again? And would we even see it coming?